Welcome to Movie Slice. Quick fun recaps of your favorite movies. Sharp, funny, and to the point.
To keep this town safe, everybody!
Hit subscribe and get your perfect slice of cinema. Megan took Ben to her office and subjected him to a series of questions, seemingly trying to brainwash and hypnotize him. Meanwhile, over at the sheriff's office, Ethan was rummaging through everything, hoping to find something useful. Before long, he discovered a hidden compartment beneath the floor. Inside was a file that detailed information on every person in the town. It seemed that everyone had been abducted and brought here by a mysterious organization. Ethan tried asking Arlene if she remembered her past, but she was afraid to reveal anything, saying only that she loved it here and had never thought of escaping. Just then, Nurse Pam stormed in with others. They had caught a criminal spreading rebellious messages, and this person was Peter, who had helped Ethan earlier. Pam demanded his execution that night, but Ethan stated that he was now the sheriff, and he called the shots. Pam, however, didn't back down, saying if Ethan didn't deal with him, she would do it herself. Pam was then thrown out by Ethan. Ethan conducted a routine interrogation of Peter, handing him a personal file and asking if he remembered his past, but Peter, with tears in his eyes, said he was kidnapped from a bar 4 years ago. He wanted to leave every moment, and his leg was broken during an escape attempt. Peter then told him about a secret route out of here. Just then, the phone rang. Pam demanded Peter's execution again at 10 p.m., but Ethan ignored her. That night, he released Peter. They went to the electric fence. Peter told him the fence carried 100,000 volts. Attempting to cross meant certain death, but to help Ethan gain the trust of the mysterious people behind it all, he was willing to sacrifice his life. Peter then ran straight into the fence. Ethan hurried back to the station to pack and prepare to escape. However, Pam walked in at that moment. She knew Peter wasn't killed by Ethan. He fooled others, but not her. Ethan didn't want to hear her nonsense and left directly. Pam then sat in Ethan's chair, slowly savoring the taste of power. It turned out she was the one who wanted to be sheriff. Soon Ethan reached the secret spot Peter told him about. Using his agent's physical prowess, he scaled the cliff face, but he didn't know that a monster was watching him intently from the darkness. He continued moving through the forest, searching for a way out, but something seemed to be around him. He quickly fired his gun. Suddenly, a mysterious monster flashed by, scratching his arm. Terrified, Ethan kept shooting. The hit monster screamed and fled rapidly. The next day, Ethan continued his journey. Using the map, he confirmed the escape direction. Meanwhile, Ben arrived at school. Strangely, all his classmates greeted him warmly, as if it was arranged. This made Ben very uncomfortable because no one ever noticed him before. Ben quickly asked his new girlfriend, Amy, what was going on. But Amy said, "You'll understand soon." Just then, the broadcast sounded. Ben was required to attend an adaptation class immediately. He went to a bright, empty white room, where only 2 other students were present. While they looked confused, Beverly walked in slowly. She introduced to the group several previous adaptation class students. They, like Ben and the others, had been invited here to learn the truth of history, and only the exceptionally gifted could attend this adaptation class. Once they passed the test, they would become the first generation of Wayward Pines. Hearing this, they were puzzled. Beverly explained that the so-called first generation were the future of Wayward Pines. Here they would possess supreme honor and privileges. She then showed a photo taken 14 years ago. The location was the original Wayward Pines. At this moment, Ben noticed a strange creature in the photo. He asked what it was. Beverly explained it was a genetically mutated monster called Abbeys. They had continuously evolved in the harsh wilderness and were now the apex predators on Earth. Meanwhile, Ethan continued wandering through the forest, but something monstrous seemed to be chasing him. Soon, Ethan discovered a rotting elk carcass, which gave him an idea. He used the carcass as bait and quickly attracted several monsters. Ethan hid behind the trees, witnessing everything firsthand. He didn't know these were the Abbeys Beverly had spoken of. Abbeys could effortlessly devour an armed soldier alive within minutes. They possess strong social awareness, often hunted in groups, and their razor-sharp claws could kill prey instantly with a single swipe. Shockingly, such creatures evolved from humans. Beverly then gave each of the 3 students a coin. The coin looked like a freshly unearthed artifact, seemingly ancient. The coin was engraved with the year 2049, yet how was that possible? It was only 2014, but Beverly stated this was the truth. They had all arrived here after being rendered rendered unconscious in car crashes. Ben and the others thought they had only been unconscious for a few hours, but the reality was they had been in suspended animation for 2,000 years. It wasn't 2014, but 4028, and they were stunned. When Ethan emerged from the forest, he was completely bewildered. Before him lay only ruined human structures. Just days ago, this had been a bustling metropolis. Just then, a helicopter flew in from the distant sky. The helicopter then landed right in front of him, and the person stepping out was Jenkins, who had rescued him before. Ethan didn't know Jenkins was actually behind all of this. Jenkins told Ethan the world he knew was gone. Humanity had succumbed to a genetic mutation crisis, transforming entirely into monsters, and they were the only survivors. But Ethan refused to believe it, thinking this was a government secret experiment. Jenkins told him that Wayward Pines was his own creation. Like Noah's Ark, it was humanity's only salvation, so no one should ever try to escape it. But Ethan still refused to believe any of it. At that moment, the roars of monsters echoed from the distance. Jenkins urged Ethan to board the helicopter immediately. Seeing the approaching monsters, Ethan finally wavered. Soon they arrived at a cliffside, and then Jenkins opened an iron door. This was the secret base of the survivors. They had survived this long because of the ample supplies stored here. Ethan then saw the communications room. Jenkins told him these people were called volunteers, dedicating their lives here. Their purpose was to prevent survivors from contacting the outside world, making them believe they were still living in their original time. Ethan felt a chill. Just then, Jenkins had to attend to something urgent, so Pam took him to treat his wounds. Ethan now fully believed that the human society he knew had long perished, but one thing still puzzled him. He had only been in a car crash. Suddenly, Ethan heard terrifying roars from the lab. As he slowly approached the glass door, a hideous monster startled Ethan. It was the same creature Ethan had seen in the jungle. Jenkins arrived then, ordering the soldiers to stand down before subduing the monster with a tranquilizer spray. Ethan demanded to know what it was, and Jenkins stated it was a genetically mutated human, called an Abby. It turned out that 2,000 years ago, Jenkins had discovered a minute but critical mutation in the human gene. He tried to warn the world, but people dismissed it as absurd. Encouraged by his sister Pam, Jenkins implemented his plan using his life savings to found a company. The company focused on cryogenic suspension research and recruited volunteers who believed in him. The volunteers then staged accidents to kidnap useful individuals from society, finally using cryogenic suspension to freeze them, waiting to be revived when the time was right. The car crash Ethan experienced was orchestrated by Jenkins. He had only been awakened recently, naively believing it was still 2014, when in fact it was 4028. To monitor everyone in the town, Jenkins filled Wayward Pines with cameras, aiming to prevent people from discovering the truth and escaping. Seeing hundreds of frozen bodies before him, Ethan was stunned. He angrily confronted Jenkins. "You abducted people and froze them without consent. Did you even ask for their permission?" But Jenkins believed he was right. 2,000 years ago, he foresaw humanity's doom. No one believed him, so kidnapping was his only option. It was like seeing your neighbor's house on fire. Ethan then followed Jenkins to his room. It was opulently decorated, elegant, and classical, fitting for a leader. Ethan then questioned Jenkins why he didn't tell the town's residents the truth, but Jenkins claimed it was useless. He had told the truth to the first group awakened, but the resulting panic spread like cancer, slowly consuming the entire town. Some, unable to accept the truth, tried to flee and were slaughtered by the Abbeys. Others, overwhelmed by terror and despair, chose suicide. Their minds couldn't process the shock of the new world because it was too staggering. Thus, the first attempt to rebuild Wayward Pines failed. Faced with the suffering of those people, he could only choose to turn a blind eye. He sank into deep self-reproach and guilt, but also learned the survival law of the apocalypse. Strict rules were essential. Now Ethan fully understood Jenkins's reasoning. Jenkins then stated the dark era was over. The first generation of youth nurtured in Wayward Pines would sow the seeds of enlightenment, fearless and unburdened by the old world's ideas. They were humanity's last hope. Ethan suddenly realized his son Ben must also know the truth, and then Jenkins revealed why he had awakened Ethan. He had recently detected a rebellious faction operating within the town. They had removed their tracking implants and seemed to be planning an uprising. Jenkins hoped Ethan, as a Secret Service agent, could investigate and protect the town, their only home. Ethan also seemed thoroughly brainwashed by Jenkins, stating he would protect Wayward Pines at any cost. However, he didn't know that his former lover, Kate, was actually part of the rebel group, and they were currently executing a secret plan. The next day, Ethan prepared to drive his son to school. Then he noticed something wrong with the car radio and quickly told his wife and son to get out. Sure enough, he found a pipe bomb hidden under the hood. This was clearly the rebels trying to kill him. Ethan then went to the police station to investigate. He suspected a man in town named Franklin because he had previously been a demolitions expert. He met Franklin at a cafe, subtly questioning him about the bomb, but Franklin seemed to be hiding something, quickly making an excuse and leaving. Sensing something was wrong, Ethan followed Franklin as he left the cafe. Soon he discovered Franklin conspiring with Kate's husband, Harold. Seeing Ethan approach, they quickly dispersed. Ethan took the opportunity to talk to Harold about the car bomb, demanding to know if they did it, but Harold claimed ignorance. Ethan didn't waste words, preparing to take Harold to the station for questioning. But as soon as they left the bar, Harold pushed down a passerby and used the chance to escape. Ethan immediately chased and subdued him. Thus Harold was arrested. Ethan urged him to tell the truth, but Harold was unusually adamant, insisting he knew nothing about the bomb. Ethan told him not to even think about escaping this place. Yet Harold found it strange. Ethan demanded Harold tell him who the other accomplices were, but Harold still refused to say anything. Left with no choice, Ethan wrote a note for Harold to deliver to Kate, convinced she was the rebel leader. Sure enough, that night, Kate confronted Ethan. She said she had been trapped here for 12 whole years, thinking every day about how to escape. During this time, she met a group of residents who felt the same. They met secretly in the woods regularly to discuss escape plans. Ethan warned them to stop thinking about escape immediately, which deeply puzzled Kate. Ethan sighed, telling her the world they knew was gone. It wasn't 2014, but 4028. Hearing this, Kate was confused. She thought Ethan must have been brainwashed by whoever controlled the town. She pretended to agree with Ethan, saying she would give up the escape plan, then quickly found her accomplices, saying they were exposed and must act tonight while they still had a chance. At midnight, they gathered at the town's electric fence, ready to blow it open. But just then, Ethan appeared. He threatened them at gunpoint to get down and took Kate hostage, forcing them to disarm the bomb. Her companions, unable to bear seeing Kate die, reluctantly disarmed the bomb. They were then locked up by Ethan at the station. Ethan pleaded with them, saying the world was gone, urging them to stop trying to escape and acting so recklessly. But Kate said something strange. Realizing something was wrong, Ethan noticed Harold wasn't there. They must have had a backup plan. Meanwhile, another bomb was placed inside a supply delivery truck by one of Kate's other accomplices. It turned out Kate's group was feigning an attack on the fence to buy time for Harold. Ethan urgently pressed her to reveal Harold's location, but Kate refused to say. Left with no choice, he went to the town surveillance room. Checking the cameras, he saw Harold had handed a bag to a delivery driver earlier. The sharp Ethan was certain it contained a bomb and deduced the delivery truck would target the electric fence tonight. Understanding the plan, Ethan quickly drove off in pursuit. Meanwhile, Ethan's son Ben sneaked out of the house. He planned to meet Amy for a date that night, their destination being the woods on the outskirts. To hitch a ride, Amy slipped into the delivery truck with Ben while the driver was distracted. However, she soon found the bag inside. It contained a music box. She gently turned the key, music playing as the atmosphere turned romantic. She didn't know it was actually a time bomb. The scene shifts to Ethan, driving in pursuit. He encountered a roadblock set, family. The next day, residents cleaned up the explosion site. Inside the cafe, everyone discussed the previous night's blast, an atmosphere of fear and anxiety filling the entire town. To ease the tension with Jenkins' authorization, the town held a group party. At the party, Brad explained to the residents that the explosion was just an accident caused by a gas leak, urging everyone to relax. But then Ethan charged forward. He told the people the truth, stating, "Last night wasn't a gas leak, but a rebel attack." He urged everyone to go home immediately and ensure their safety, and Ethan's words and actions thoroughly angered Jenkins. Meanwhile, Harold and two other accomplices hid in the woods. They were the three who confronted Ethan last night, but now one of them was barely clinging to life, because during last night's operation, their companion suffered internal bleeding from injuries and couldn't be saved. They could only watch him die. While Harold and Alan were desperately digging a hole to bury their companion, Alan suddenly stopped. He disagreed with burying him here. He should be buried in the land of freedom outside the fence. So before long, Ethan received a report. A man claimed his heavy-duty truck was stolen an hour ago. Ethan immediately understood it must be the work of the rebels. He guessed they wanted to crash the electric fence with the truck, so he quickly drove towards the perimeter wall. Sure enough, halfway there, Ethan spotted the rebel Harold. Harold fled desperately, forcing Ethan to fire a warning shot. He then ran up and subdued Harold directly. Meanwhile, Alan was already driving the heavy truck towards the electric fence. The next moment, Alan finally crashed through the wall, reaching the outside. He quickly dragged his companion's body out of the truck. He shouted shouted excitedly, thrilled to have finally escaped, unaware that several Abbeys had appeared behind him. Just then, one Abbey spotted the breach. It crawled under the truck and entered the town. The Abbey quickly let out a terrifying shriek to call its companions, but the next second it was Ethan arriving. He shot the Abbey dead instantly, but the gunfire attracted two more Abbeys attempting to crawl in. Ethan fired two more shots, blowing out the truck's tires and crushing the Abbeys underneath. Back at the station, several students barged in. They were the first generation of Wayward Pines, demanding the sheriff immediately execute the rebels for violating the town's rules. If the sheriff tried to protect the terrorists, they would take matters into their own hands. Meanwhile, Ethan was urgently organizing repairs to the wall. Jenkins was deeply disappointed in Ethan's performance, causing panic among the residents first, and now someone had escaped outside, leading to several deaths. He urged Ethan to hasten the execution of the rebels. If not, more bloodshed would follow. But Ethan cut Jenkins off. He had his own way of doing things. He wouldn't kill indiscriminately, which infuriated Jenkins. The next day, Ethan pressured Harold to reveal the location of the other rebels. He showed Harold photos of Alan's gruesome death, proving he wasn't lying. That unknown creatures lurked outside, and they must stop trying to escape or face death. Harold finally relented. He gave up the names of the other rebels. Elsewhere, Pam approached Teresa, hinting at a secret location outside town and giving her an access card. Teresa went to the outskirts and indeed found an abandoned cabin. Beneath it, she discovered a mysterious basement. At that moment, Ethan was driving to the town's secret base. He took out the rebel list, intending to use the surveillance system to find them. The tracking implants showed them gathered in a small tavern, but when they checked the surveillance feed, only the owner was inside. Jenkins quickly called the owner. They then realized the rebels had removed their tracking chips. And because Ethan delayed dealing with the rebels, the first generation of Wayward Pines launched an assault on the station. They claimed they were protecting the town and their future. Arlene spat in Jason's face, and enraged Jason subdued her, handcuffed her to a cabinet. Then they took out weapons, preparing to execute the rebels on the spot. Despite Kate's pleas, Jason, thoroughly brainwashed by the town's teachings, brought the rebels out and shot them dead one by one. Just as Kate was about to be executed too, Ethan arrived in time and saved her. Seeing her husband die before her eyes, Kate was now utterly heartbroken. Nothing Ethan said could console her. She no longer believed a word he spoke. Just then, Teresa suddenly appeared. She said she had a major discovery. She took Ethan and Kate to the basement she'd found that day. The place looked very old, seemingly unused for a long time. They discovered a computer containing hundreds of video files. The person in the videos was Evans, who had escaped earlier. They clearly showed the apocalyptic scenes outside. Seeing this, Kate finally accepted the truth of humanity's extinction. Ethan said Jenkins was a control freak. They had to tell everyone the truth. Ethan came up with an idea. He called Jenkins, saying he'd had a change of heart and would execute Kate, the rebel leader, that very night. Jenkins said he should have done it sooner and quickly called a town meeting. At midnight, everyone gathered in the square. They chanted and demanded Kate's execution. But the next moment, Ethan lowered his knife. He told the residents he would reveal the truth tonight. They'd all been deceived. The world they knew was gone. Their town was the last haven on Earth. And the one manipulating it all was Dr. Jenkins. He built this prison, trapping everyone here, monitoring their every move. He urged everyone to unite and rise up. Kate then came forward to corroborate. The residents were visibly shaken. Jenkins was stunned. He finally realized it was all Ethan's trap. After a fierce internal struggle, Jenkins decided to cut all power to the town, including the electric fence. He planned to abandon everyone, let the Abbeys in, and purge the town, wiping out all the residents. Sensing disaster, Ethan told everyone to hurry home, pack, and hide in the town's basement. The surveillance screens now showed countless Abbeys approaching. Time was running out with Jenkins. His sister Pam pleaded with him to stop and restore power. But Jenkins believed the residents had lost their value and should all be killed so he could cultivate a new batch. No matter how Pam begged, Jenkins remained obstinate. He even ordered guards to seize her, locking her in a cryo-suspension pod, intending to wake her after the slaughter. Meanwhile, hordes of Abbeys stormed into the town. Residents scattered in terror as the monsters went on a rampage. Scenes of unspeakable horror unfolding. The entire town plunged into panic. Just then, the town's rebels arrived. They concentrated fire, shooting down Abbeys, but overwhelmed by their numbers, they could only fight a retreat. Narrowly escaping into the basement, the supporters finally saw Jenkins's true face. Megan revealed Jenkins's current location, saying that was their only chance for survival. Ethan led everyone through underground tunnels, but Abbeys had broken in. He fired wildly, quickly, covering their retreat, finally reaching an elevator safely. Just as they thought they could catch their breath, the elevator stopped and Abbeys were climbing up the shaft. In the critical moment, they opened the elevator's ceiling hatch. Everyone scrambled out. To cover the others, Ethan decided to sacrifice himself. He bid a final farewell to his son, telling them to run and not look back. He took out the explosives, set the fuse, and prepared to go down with the Abbeys. Meanwhile, Kate stormed into Jenkins's office with a gun. She condemned his twisted actions, but Jenkins claimed he was preserving humanity's future. Just then, a gunshot killed Jenkins. The shooter was his sister, Pam, just awakened. Elsewhere, masses of Abbeys were about to breach the elevator. In his final moments, Ethan recalled precious memories with his loved ones, and to protect everyone, he pressed the detonator. Teresa shed tears of agony. Ben screamed for his father toward the elevator shaft, but a piece of falling debris struck him, knocking him unconscious. When he awoke again, the surroundings were entirely different. A nurse said he'd been in a coma for 3 full years. Ben walked down the street just like his father first arrived in Wayward Pines. The residents were now a completely new set of people. Eerily, the evil doctor. Jenkins was revered as a great man of the town, and a doll symbolizing his father was hanged in mid-air, a warning to all. No one should ever try to leave Wayward Pines. If you liked today's video, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell to receive all new updates. See you in the next video. Goodbye.